Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. We have the first roadmap update of the year, so let us check it out. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members, in particular to my latest patron, TM Kingman. Thank you so much for the support, it is truly appreciated. So this particular roadmap is more just highlighting the 3.19 patch. It also mentions that the update for both the upstream and downstream teams in 2023 needs a little bit more time, and so they will update the progress tracker at a later date. So a bit of a shame that we won't see what is getting worked on this year, but we will see soon enough. And before we continue, I do apologise, I am currently getting over a cold, so I might sound a little nasally. Now, in regards to Alpha 3.19, it does mention to ensure server and client stability, they have decided to extend the 3.18 branch for an extra patch cycle, which will allow them to then address any issues that may arise. Now, this means that the next update after the release of Alpha 3.18 to the live servers will be called Alpha 3.19 and come before Invictus launch week, which is in May. However, this will still be running on the 3.18 codebase. Now, this I was kind of expecting as they work towards 4.0, kind of similar to what they did last year with 3.17, and I am certain that there will be many more new additions to the Alpha 3.19 branch on top of what I speak about today. It also mentions that the production teams are evaluating features originally planned for 3.19 and seeing whether they can bring these features in earlier into the 3.18 branch. Now, I'm not entirely sure what these originally planned 3.19 features are, but as usual, it does state items added to the release viewer are all tentative and subject to change and additions. So, as always, what we see on the roadmap are representative of CIG's intentions right now, and can change if required. So do keep that in mind, the roadmap is just a guide, not a guarantee. Anyway, with that said, here is what is currently slated for release in Alpha 3.19, which is expected to release around Q2 this year, but with it saying that the patch will release before Invictus, then we know it's going to be early to mid-May. So first up for locations, we have the Lorville cityscape, which is this huge redesign of the Louisville City, expanding it to be more city-like and opening it up further to provide more area for new additions like the building interiors that we just saw on Inside Star Citizen. Now, this update is, as they mentioned, part of a bigger initiative that will see all cities expand in scale and scope to be more like real-world cities with plenty of shopping, missions, and accommodation for players. Great to see that they've progressed really quickly with this, with it first originally intending to be a 4.0 branch feature, getting it in earlier. Next up, we have the new player experience, which is part of another long-standing initiative to improve the first 30 minutes of gameplay in the burst. This is to help new players get a better understanding of Star Citizen's persistent universe, and this will introduce them to some of the basic features and be applicable to begin with only in Area 18 and its associated space station being Bajani Point. Now, we all know the persistent universe is a massive learning curve, especially for new players, let alone veterans, and can be very overwhelming, especially when there are bugs and issues that prevent the process from being anything but smooth. But also, there is a lot of opportunity to make it easier with a basic guide outlining what is available, where to start, just allowing players to dip their toes in without feeling so completely overwhelmed by everything available. So the next gameplay addition for Alpha 3.19 is called New Missions Salvaging Contracts. Now, we heard about these a little bit on Star Citizen Live and read about it a little bit in the monthly report, which I am still working on, by the way, in which we will have access to salvageable ships with contract brokers offering salvaging jobs for these derelicts around Lagrange points in Stanton. So basically, you pay a fee to the contract broker, but keep any of the salvage that you manage to attain. Now, we did hear that these are to be divided into 3 different categories, with legal being a safe lot for you to go to and salvage the ship. In these areas, you will be protected by the NPC security, I'm assuming flight security. There's also an illegal version, where you will be given the location of a salvageable ship, and then there is a time limit that you must salvage as much as you can before the security arrive and kind of fends you off. And then finally, there will be an open contract where you and anyone else can actually accept this location for a past battle where you will go and then salvage what you want. But obviously you risk anyone else being there. They could be friendly, they could be foe, they might just be getting on with their own thing, but quite a range of interesting opportunities depending on what you're after. And then the final new feature is called New Missions Ghost Hollow PvP Mission. Now this is a new mission type for the Ghost Hollow Point of Interest on Microtech, which makes use of the comm array and nav mesh, and will create PvP encounters where players will need to fight for control over terminals for a chance of big credit payouts, it says. So I suppose more like another Jump Town, which, personally speaking, for the time being anyway, I'm not a huge fan of, as points of interest are quite limited right now, and I've always enjoyed going to the locations like this, taking on the AI, looting as much as I can, whereas now it seems likely it's just going to be a huge PvP location through and through. However, I am sure that there will be plenty of new points of interest locations added in the future, and I'm sure there will be a lot of fun to be had here in a PvP environment, especially as it is planet-side, it is quite vast, and it's in a forest. So I think as a location for this type of mission, it'll be a lot of fun, but it's a shame it's going to be very much a hotspot that most players will likely want to avoid. So that was all the features currently slated for 3.19, very limited. As I say, there will likely be a lot more added, but before we finish, just a quick word in regards to Alpha 3.18 and its progression to live. Now there was a new build released last night, which also had a stress test where CIG asked all Wave 2 players to get in and put the servers through their paces so that they can effectively simulate the live release conditions, hoping to identify any potential issues before opening up to, firstly, an open PTU, and then it says followed by a swift launch to the live servers. Now what this means is they feel that this build is ready for live, but they really want to thoroughly test it to see if there are any issues that arise. And if all goes well, then they will go to an open PTU. Now if I was to estimate in terms of the date rollout, if all goes well, they will most likely put it to the open PTU for the weekend to give it time to see if anything does happen, with potentially a live release in the next week. But it could come sooner if all goes well, and of course, if all goes to crap, it could be a lot later. Now we will likely hear more about how this test went this evening. I suppose the biggest clue of if it went well being it opened up to the open PTU, but that is the latest with the build. And there you have it, that is the first roadmap update of this year, quite a light one considering the progress tracker wasn't updated, which I am very excited to see expand throughout this year. Great to see more content and gameplay coming this year as well, and as I say, I highly expect to see a lot more features and content get added to the 3.19 branch, and thankfully we won't be waiting too long for it once 3.18 goes live. I also very much doubt that there will be a wipe for the transition from 3.18 to 3.19. I would expect the next wipe to be the 4.0 patch, which is end of year next year, so I wouldn't worry too much about them wiping. But with that said, if you do appreciate my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Also do come and hang out over at twitch.tv/supermacbrother. I am probably taking today off as well, because it's not going to be fun for you listening to me like this, and I don't know how long my voice will last, but I will be hopefully back on it next week. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, huge thank you to my patrons and channel members, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.